Thanks for joining us, Ken MacKenzie.
The pleasure's all mine. Thank you for having me on.
I wanted to start by asking you how you got into the high-paced, fast, crazy beverage world. What was your intro into this world of drinks and getting people to try different things?
You know, I actually fell backwards into it. It wasn't by design, or I wasn't planning this career.
True, most people, yeah.
Yeah, right. You end up here somehow. I followed a girl down to Guadalajara, Mexico, and ended up getting married and staying there. And fortunately for me, one of the businesses that her family was integrated into was 100% agave tequila.
Awesome. Yeah.
I had very little knowledge of Epicurean tequila at the time. My entire basis was, shots of gold tequila, the young person's nightmare of I can't smell it, I can't taste it. And very quickly learned what an Epicurean spirit truly is in the mid-90s, and kind of fell in love with the whole process of growing the agave, the fermentation, the distillation, the exportation, importation, kind of the whole vertical of showing people, whether it was distributors or individuals, consumers, what a treasured spirit it was south of the border. Yet we weren't seeing, at least in the mid-90s, we weren't yet seeing a whole lot of that north.
No, definitely not. Because I think Chinaco wasn't till 2000s, right? If I remember correctly. Like, I don't know if you're allowed to speak of any like specific brands. We don't have to go there if you don't want to. Yeah.
Yeah. No, sure. Yeah. No. So it's a great example, right? With 100% agave tequila at the time, there were, of course, brands that had some recognition, such as Herradura, or these types of really stable, the Romo family, 100% agave tequila. Bing Crosby was drinking it, in his movies. There was a lot of knowledge as far as if they had spent time in Mexico and were introduced to something. Yet what I was really experiencing here was we were really pandered or advertised to in a way of, hey, here's an $11 bottle of tequila. Here's the fun party aspect of doing shots and, drinking beers along with it or whatever. And when I got down there, it was really the polar opposite of, hey, we really sip and enjoy 100% agave tequila. And when I came back maybe to California the first time and looked around, there were brands like Porfidio with the kind of hand-blown glass and the cactus in the center of the bottle. Herradura, maybe one or two others that were, more or less prevalent, but it was very early on. And so I was just lucky from that perspective of really identifying how different the US and Mexico both operate and the knowledge base around the tequila industry itself.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things where it's like, well, this worked down there. It should work up here. If we get these good quality products here, why would we not take to them? It doesn't always have to be the party Jose Cuervo. I think in brands, so I don't want to call anyone out, but we all know the mixtos. Yeah. Yes, probably
exactly,
the nicer way of saying it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just from an exposure standpoint, that was really what was marketed to us. And so, from the Mexico perspective, it was really, hey, we'll produce whatever sells,
Which
if
makes
you
sense.
want. Yeah, we can make terrible product or we can make exceptional product. And I think that at least for my in-laws, the thing that really shocked them was the lack of exposure. Hey, were you raised outside? Like how do you not even know about this stuff? And figuring out that, hey, there might be a real opportunity here to start working in the space.
Did Mexico go through prohibition as well? I just don't know.
No, it was a completely different situation. And so a lot of these brands were heritage brands that never went away. And so they have been in business for well over 100 years. The families were very widely recognized in the country of Mexico domestically, or even South America or parts of Europe.
Well, I'm thinking, in America, we had this weird 10-year plus experiment where the people that were drinking for effect, not quality. And so like you don't get that interruption in Mexico, so you can have that unbroken chain of No, just quality still. I'm sure there's still people who drink to drink and have fun in Mexico too. Yeah, I've been down
absolutely.
there too. So,
yeah. yeah. But I think it's more from the standpoint of like denomination-of-origin. What I really didn't realize is that tequila, being such an Epicurean spirit, was much more like cognac or champagne or, a beverage that has denomination of origin that can only be produced in certain areas, and they take great care and pride in the production. And we weren't getting any of that. At least I wasn't in my...
Yeah. We were getting it, but different quality tequilas here. I have heard that the Consejo Regulador for tequila checks in on every distillery every day. Is that true?
Yeah, the CRT? Yes.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, it's still, like, I read that and I was like, that can't be true, but I see it and hear it more and more. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a tequila is a national treasure in Mexico. It's really, for good reason, people take a lot of pride, and it's one of their best exports. And so for them, and for the government, you really want to have a handle on all 100% agave tequila has to be bottled on site at the distillery. And it has to be managed in a way where the agave are on GPS chips. So they know when they're planted, they know when they're uprooted, they know where they're going, they know when it's fermented, distilled, etc.
That's wild. I had not heard. So that's crazy. Especially because, you look and you see these videos. I've never actually been down there, but I've seen videos of them turning agaves into tequila or mezcal. And if you're listening to this and you haven't checked that out, do check that out, because it's like this crazy prehistoric plant being ground up. Like, to think that they've taken the 21st century and applied that to this ancient practice is super cool too. Like, yeah. How is tequila not $200 a bottle? It always blows my mind.
Well, it certainly has much more complexity. When you take it at its most basic form, you're looking at agave yeast water. But agave is not an annual crop. It's going to take anywhere from 8 to 12 years to grow the plant itself. And so for that amount of investment and time and everything else, and how much agave it takes to actually produce a liter of tequila, you're really looking at a proposition where it's artisan. I mean, you're making a really, really high-end spirit that deserves to be sipped or mixed in a way where people can really enjoy it, as opposed to just, I'm going to see how hammered I can get in 30 seconds to, an hour.
Yes, the way I enjoyed tequila in college.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, it is crazy. So, I come mostly from the wine world, and I always compare it, you hear complaints in the wine world about you have to plant the grapes and you have a couple years, but still, like, it's nothing like the problems of tequila, because you do plant it, you wait, but then you also destroy the plant to make the product. It's like, it still blows my mind every time. But so you got introduced to tequila, and then you started introducing people up north to tequila. So kind of walk us through that journey.
That was an interesting one, because I think that even amongst all these decades, we had that shared experience of the mixtos. And so what I really ran into the most in the mid to late 90s was tequila. I can't smell that. I can't taste that. I have my nightmare experience or whatever else. And it was really rewarding to be able to introduce new people that hadn't had exposure to tequila to how good the drink actually was. And B, reintroduce people that probably had those bad experiences to say, this isn't, your dad's tequila. This is something completely different.
Yeah. It's like you were... In my head, I'm thinking, like, it's like you're a beef salesman and you're going around and everyone's only tried McDonald's. And you're like, no. Like, I got steak. And you're like, I've eaten a lot of McDonald's. I'm good for now. It's like, there's more to the picture here. That is cool. Like, you have a whole range that you can introduce people to.
So much more. And I think, for me, one of the big things was really experiencing down there that they were using Blanco and Repo tequilas very much like Americans were using vodka. Here, it was extremely mixable. And so, I think that Americans had Andrew being just classically conditioned to shots and margaritas. There's no in between whatsoever. It's just one or the other. And so to be able to open up that whole new world created years, if not decades, of really good discussions around the spirit itself.
Mm-hmm. I like that you brought up the margarita, because I was hoping we could touch on that too. Because I feel like the margarita is both the best and worst thing that ever happened to tequila. It's like fantastic ambassador. It got it into every door. But I remember I was talking, I think it was Ivy Mix. We were talking about, like, you can make a lot of good or terrible cocktails. And there are some cocktails that their virtue is they're, like, instantly recognizable. But you can make some pretty terrible margaritas, and they're passable to enough of the public that you can get away with it. Like, It's like either the best or worst thing, and maybe both, that happened to tequila. I don't know if you agree or disagree.
Well, that's a really interesting road to go down. The margarita is certainly one of the most popular cocktails in the world. And it has given tequila a spotlight or very good exposure as far as, hey, here's something that you got to try. I completely agree with you. It's all about the ingredients, right? It's all about how you build something. And so for me, I think that, the transition to go into Fresh Victor for me was growing up when I did in the 80s, all we had available to us was the high fructose corn syrup, neon green, cloudy mixers that were an absolute afterthought. That it was not front and center. But then you think about the margarita, right? You brought this up, that it's 2/3 of the glass is the mixer. And so you
sometimes
think to yourself,
more depending on the restaurant.
Yeah. And so if you're using, subpar ingredients, you're creating, as you just said, not a good cocktail, and it's not good exposure. It doesn't highlight, anything. And so what I really like is, keeping to what would be on your grandma's shopping list. Just really fresh, good ingredients with great additive-free 100% agave tequila, and you have an exceptional cocktail with a margarita.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, I could see the evolution in our talk kind of in advance, where like that is one of those arguments that it's hard to argue against. But then you come up against the reality of day-to-day life, and like I think even like getting away from the margarita, just like grapefruit and tequila. Love that combination. Think it's a great flavor combination. I love me a Paloma. Mm-hmm. I don't like eating grapefruit. I'm never going to have grapefruit in the house. Like, I'm never going to do that step. So I'm either like beer and shot or on ice because, at least when I'm at home, I just can't be bothered. And I don't think I'm alone in that.
I'm sorry to interrupt. This will be fast, I promise. Please take a moment and leave a comment on the show. It really would mean the world to me. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what we're doing well and what we can improve on. I'd love to hear from you all. All right, back at it.
So that's a really interesting point, because now we're talking about quality versus convenience and, what you're willing to do. And with certain things like jalapeno or grapefruit or prickly pear or these things, when you have to add enough steps, at some point your brain goes, hey, I don't want to deal with this. I want a good cocktail, but I don't want to have to deal with all the steps I have to go through just to make a singular drink.
Yeah. No, I mean, there is a reason why beer and wine are so popular. I don't think it's wholly the fact that beer and wine are popular. I think it's a convenient package that's single serving, that like it is its own preservative and and on and on. It's like, okay, yeah. Or why a lot of people, if they are going to do cocktails at home, it's vodka soda, vodka tonic. I open one, there's no waste. I don't prep anything. It's easy. Convenience and high quality ingredients have been having a battle over the last 20 years. And I think convenience is just kicking high quality ingredients ass, but doesn't think it has to all the time. And I think, you've kind of shown that. And so tell us a little bit about Fresh Victor, how you make the product and what's so unique about it.
So Fresh Victor is kind of a culmination of hearing for a long time what the industry, from the standpoint of on-premise, bars, restaurants, casinos, cruise ships, sports arenas, these sorts of places, as well as the home consumer like yourself at home, are looking for or want. And what's, in the best sense of kind of the drinking experience, I've seen a real shift, or digital shift in the last 5 to 10 years on clean label, additive-free, fair trade, non-GMO, kosher, all the bells and whistles of we'd like to drink and eat better. We want to, put better ingredients into our bodies, and therefore we don't want something that can be warehoused for 4 years anywhere and just, shoved onto a shelf.
Yeah. We have enough Twinkies, so.
There you go. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So for us, it really became, hey, the tequila business has been great. What would an opportunity look like as far as being able to mix better cocktails and mocktails? What would that actually take? And what we found, Andrew, as a sweeping generalization, is you really have to have a handle on the production itself. You can't rely on a third party or, for quality, for consistency, for all these different things. You need to take the best ingredients that you can find and be absolutely consistent week over week, batch over batch, to make sure that you're always delivering the high quality drink that people come to expect with squeezing their own or making it from scratch. And that was much more of an undertaking than I ever imagined. It sounds awesome when you're in your kitchen and you're like, yeah, let's do that. Tequila is pretty straightforward. As Epicurean as it is, you kind of have a handle on how to take that algebraic formula and repeat it over and over and over again. With this, it was just merely 4 or 5 ingredients, but at the same time, getting that balance between the acidity and the sweetness or the bricks or the spiciness or the salt against the, grapefruit. These things were a lot more complicated than I initially anticipated. It took longer, but once we got it to where we wanted it, it's been extremely rewarding because, you figure out that, hey, Fresh Victor can really be mixed with anything. Vodka, rum, gin, tequila, whiskey, mezcal, pisco, bubbles for fresh mimosas, wine for sangria, beer for shandies, radlers, micheladas, or you could go the non-alc route and just do club sodas and tonics and iced teas and sparkling water and water for agua fresca, soft drinks, whatever you want to mix it with. And so we really just try to take that labor piece or that hard piece of gathering the ingredients and squeezing it yourself so you can just have the great experience of mixing a really high quality drink at home easily.
Sure. Yeah. And, I do like what you said about we don't want more products that are 4 years shelf stable forever. Will outlast the end of time.
Yeah.
But you do have to have some shelf stability. And, we had John DeBerry, he cocktail author who wrote a book on non-alcoholic cocktails on recently. And one of the main things that he pointed out about making his non-alcoholic cocktails was it was a lot harder than when he wrote the book on alcohol because every product was very short shelf life. And so he had to in a very quick stint make all the drinks and balance it all because he's like everything's going bad in a week. And so I think you have a little bit more of a shelf stability there.
We do. So I and that's hugely important because what I will say, it's to validate what you just said. When we first started producing Fresh Victor, we didn't have our shelf life studies done yet. We do those at UC Davis. And so for us, we were marking the product at approximately 40 days from date of production. Well, distribution alone, it takes weeks to get it from the production facility to the distribution center, to the retail account, to the consumer. We were pouring out as much as we were selling, if not more. And then once we did the studies, we found out that with the acidity and the cold pressed citrus and with the, agave nectar working as a natural preservative and everything that we were doing, we were able to mark the bottles that you received at 4 months from date of production as long as they're kept cold. They're very stable cold. Once you open it, like anything else with fresh, oxidation does occur, but you still have a good 3 to 4 weeks with it before the fruit starts to really fade. The acidity kind of fades away.
Mm-hmm. Which is really cool. That is a lot longer than the shelf life we have for our fresh squeezed juice. So we'll do 2 days, but after the end of that, I guess it is oxidation just from squeezing it, having so much exposed where you are squeezing it, but it just starts to get bitter and it doesn't taste right. It just doesn't taste good. It still has the acidity, but something's off. It loses a vibrancy.
Sure, 100%. And I'm a fan of shelf stable stuff if it's good. For Fresh Victor, we try to give you a baseline to work with. And it could be as simple as adding a spirit or a sparkling wine or a sparkling water, whatever you want to add to it. Or you can continue to add variable ingredients that you can shop for at the store and make it as complex of a drink as you choose to make it with flavor profiles and the such. It's really cool to have the Mexican lime and agave or the lemon sour or the jalapeno lime, and then start to layer on top of that. And if you put some fresh mango puree or tamarind or whatever, suddenly you have a completely different flavor profile.
Can you kind of walk us through, was there a progression? Did you start with 1 or 2 flavors and add, or did you start with mostly the full line?
The former. We started with the Mexican lime and agave. That okay. Was, kind of
makes
the important.
Sense. Yeah.
Yeah. We wanted to make sure that we were able to get a baseline. And as I was saying, when it's just 4 ingredients, on paper, it seems so easy. It seems so hey, and I will say, Andrew, I got it right in our kitchen probably the second weekend I was doing it. But then taking that to production, just those 4 ingredients in that one formula took about 18 months.
I believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't taste like the balance between the acidity and the bricks and how the ingredients married together. We kept doing run after run and it just wasn't right yet. And finally we got to where we wanted it to be and kind of locked it in.
I mean, that is a much larger version of what I'm going to compare it to. But even when it comes to like making a cocktail, the last time I did this for an event, it's like making a cocktail at the bar is one thing versus writing down the steps, handing it off to another person and having them make 150 for an event. Like you have to like, okay, am I sure on these proportions? Like warn them not to use as many bitters because they're going to kind of show up a little bit heavier in the blend. And like you there's so much. And that's just like one step up. Like what you did was like 5 steps up to actually produce it,
Yeah, it really truly is a throwback. I think that from a generational standpoint, my grandparents, great-grandparents, growing up, they took as much pride in the drinks as they did the food. It was a culinary experience. It was, hey, we're coming over for dinner and they're going to serve formal drinks an hour and a half before dinner. And we're all going to sit in the living room or whatever and have these wonderful things that we can talk about. And as time went on, I think that the convenience of things or like, hey, we don't have to worry about this. We can just run out and get it 10 minutes before people come over, that kind of thing had really shifted and changed things. And I think what people are tending to go back to is we want that quality. We appreciate the quality a little bit more again, which is great. I'm all for it. That's exactly my wheelhouse. And so when we're doing that, what we want to do is create an environment where you can feel really proud to serve things and know that it'll be exactly the same time in and time out. Kind of take that labor aspect away from on-premise in the sense that times have changed. People, like grocers. I can remember when that was a career. People were there for 40 or 50 years at the exact same building and you knew exactly who you were dealing with. Now you're lucky if you retain somebody for a year or two.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It is true. Which
it's
I
different.
think is, I don't know if it's that I'm getting older or I just maybe like more fussy. I don't know. I'm one of those people that, for better or worse, I just kind of stick at places. And so like now I'm coming up on my 9th year where I'm at. When I was at the last place, I went back and forth, but at Secreto, I was there for like 7 years. I just stick around.
Yeah.
People can't get rid of me. I don't know. Good or bad.
Which is great. In my mind, that's great. Like there's something very comfortable and secure about dealing with somebody And when there's so much change all the time, it creates havoc. It creates disruption because the guy on Monday isn't doing the same thing the guy on Saturday is doing. I've witnessed people walking into places and going, "Oh, if it's not him, let's go somewhere else." Yeah,
no, that happens for sure. Do you have a full sales force? How do you get word out about Fresh Victor?
We're still a very small company in Northern California. And so for us, it's a combination of working with distributors, trying to get the message out on that tier of, hey, industry, we have this offering and it's alternative where it's consistent, it's good ingredients, it's what people are looking for, and it can really help your accounts. And then we have kind of the consumer aspect of the business where we go direct to people's doorsteps. They can order it online, or we sell it through stores, grocery stores, or, liquor stores. And in that sense, there's a little bit more of an educational facet because people aren't used to cold pressed mixers.
Yeah. Well, I'd asked that question because I wasn't sure if you'd been experiencing the problem with the salespeople. That's why I was like, is there a rotating? Although if you're dealing with distributors, I'm sure you have been dealing with some rotation because they're having a tough time at it right now. Everything from R&DC to,
Yeah, it's tough, especially when you're trying to a certain degree, blaze a first to category product, like something that people aren't used to. If it was something that's been around forever, people would say, okay, I understand it right away. When you start talking about this mixer and they're like, wait, what? It's refrigerated. It's this, it's that, it's the other. What do you mix it with? How do you mix it? Where do you have to keep it? All these different things. You want to make sure that whoever is going to be using it, whether it's the distributor or the consumer, kind of understand the proposition of the product itself.
That makes sense. Yeah, if you showed up with the Fresh Victor vodka, even if it was like specially produced from cold press and distilled in a unique way. It's like, I have a bucket in my head for vodka. I know what to do with this. I have the drinks. I could do it. But like, if you show up with something that I haven't seen before, it's like, what is this? Yeah. Good or bad.
That's exactly right. Both from the distributor aspect and the consumer. And so that is kind of a double whammy, right? Like you're explaining it a lot.
I got to tell this guy what to do because he's got to tell them what to do too. So
exactly.
Okay, could you walk me through how exactly the cold press thing works? Because, you know, in my head, I am imagining it doesn't matter what I'm imagining. How does that work? And how does it differ from just normal, like, heat pasteurization, the whole gambit?
Yeah. So like with any consumer product that you're going to put out into the marketplace, you want some level of pasteurization because you want to make sure that it's food quality safe, right? Because otherwise, like you were saying, it's going to expire within 2 to 3 days. And by the time it gets to market, it's not even viable. What we do is with the cold pressed juices, we source all the ingredients ourselves. So the pineapples are coming from Costa Rica, the prickly pear from Arizona, the limes from Tecomán, Colima, Mexico, the neighboring state to Jalisco. So the ingredients are sourced in a way where you're getting the best ingredients to be blended together. You're using cold pressed citrus. You're using only natural sweeteners, so organic agave nectar, real cane sugar, not, any syrups or anything along those lines. So
Nothing
when you read the label,
Nebraska,
yeah, when you read the label, you understand it. You're not staring at it going, what is this stuff? It's very, very basic from that regard. And then we're blending these things together. We're doing a very gentle or light pasteurization. So it actually has a shelf life as opposed to not having any shelf life at all or being dangerous, quite frankly, because, when you're getting something through distribution, it's going from your production facility to the distributor, to the account, to the home. You don't want anything to be compromised there. And so you're doing it in a very sterile environment at the production facility that is right outside of Tahoe. And you're making sure that batch over batch, the pH, the Scoville levels on the heat on the jalapeno, everything is exactly the same week over week. So you can tweak it to make sure that it's matching what you received before.
Cool. So it is a gentle pasteurization, but it's not the insane heat for just a few seconds. Probably like a gentle heat sort of thing.
Exactly right. Yeah, you don't want to overcook anything. You want to just make sure that there's nothing left within that bottle that can be harmful to anyone. And at the end of the day, you can do that in a way that where we do it, where the juice is still extremely fresh, but it's safe. And no retailer, would take on something that has a high risk to the public safety. We went through this a while back.
They'd be responsible for that if they knew too. Yeah.
100%. So there was actually some really, sad times where non-pasteurized things actually caused deaths of children and such in the marketplace. And what you want to do is make sure that at the end of the day, people are able to enjoy fresh, cold chain, really high quality items with complete safety.
Sure. Yeah. And, my only experience with this, but kind of what I'm comparing it to, I'm sure it's similar because it is just fresh cut juice with no alcohol. I took one beer brewing class with my wife and I was really impressed and also kind of turned off, didn't ever continue because, the amount of cleaning and the amount of attention you have to do post-boil before the fermentation is fully growing is insane. But it's the exact same problem where it's all the sugar, right temperature, and hopefully the organisms that grow are the ones that turn it into beer. But you have this very, very dangerous moment where it's this is the ideal condition for something bad to grow. And it is, your head's nodding. So it's exactly the same, I assume.
Yes.
It's
It's absolutely essential. And you can't have anything from the last production left over in any way, shape, or form. It all has to be pharmaceutical, steam cleaned, immaculate, no bacterium, no, anything that can possibly go into the next batch or bottles or anything else. You have to be absolutely meticulous. That's very difficult to achieve, hence why a lot of people don't do it because it's banging a head against, a brick wall over and over and over again. But the trade-off is with a refrigerated product, you have that quality that you can be so proud of sharing and people actually gravitate to.
You can actually do the thing you set out to do. Yeah.
Exactly. Well said.
How did you decide how spicy to get the jalapeno one? Because I was impressed. A lot of times I try spicy things and I'm just like, meh, but I was like, that's got some heat. Not too much, but it's got some heat.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for that. I appreciate you saying it. It's funny when you think about things in perspective. I wouldn't have gotten it right the first time out of the gate. I'm a spicy guy. I love spicy. And my wife, being of more sound mind than I, had, said, hey, at the end of the day, what are you ultimately trying to achieve here? You want people to enjoy the experience and want to have a second drink, yeah? You don't want to create something that's a dare. Hey, I tried that Fresh Victor stuff and it was so spicy that I took 2 sips and man, I got through it, but that was something. You want it to be, hey, I could actually taste the jalapeno itself as an ingredient. It would, whether, kind of the vegetable overtone of it was delicious. And I got the heat, but it wasn't overwhelming heat. It was very pleasant. And when you have the ice dilution on the shake and everything else, the hope is that it's balanced.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got to remember too, like when you mix it, it tastes a lot less. Yeah, and you've got to keep in mind, of course, the people at home, they're going to try it at one point undiluted. You can't kill them, just like me. I was just like, ooh. Have you ever been to Santa Fe? Just curious.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of a spot called Horseman's Haven?
I don't think so.
Next time you go, check it out. They are touted as having the spiciest green chili in the world, and it is no joke. So when my father came out to visit, I actually made him, because he was like ready to go and scoop it onto his food. I was like, try it on the tip of your knife first. Trust me. And he did. And he was just like, thank you so much. It's like, yeah, you would have just ruined your food. And they have their will not refund for too spicy warning. And like, it'll wake you up. It's good. But yeah, it is no joke.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, that's fun because, the restaurant's obviously having some fun with it and like, hey, guess what? We're not going to refund you if you take it a step further.
Oh, and you have to specifically order level 2. Yeah. So like you ask for it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I think when you're trying to create a flavor profile or a SKU, the one thing that you want to do is kind of, it's funny, Andrew, because you have the people that appreciate the spicy and the people that stay away from it at all costs. And so it's a very specific set of people, right, that you're looking towards. And what you're trying to do is create something that more or less the masses can appreciate. Like, hey, I get it right away. This is good this way. You don't want to go on either extreme. Way too spicy or not spicy enough. You want to try to level up where you're like, hey, this is something that I can appreciate.
Yeah.
Not easy to do.
Yeah. Spice is a really interesting one because it's sort of self-selecting in that way. When I was looking up a couple of the other flavors, I did see that you won some awards for the grapefruit, which I wasn't surprised about either. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really, really pleased to be able to say that with the San Francisco World Spirits Competition, all 9 flavors have won double gold.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which
okay.
So that makes me feel really good. Like we're onto something here. Secondarily, the grapefruit and sea salt won best in class.
I must have misremembered there. Okay, gotcha.
No, you got it. It's the grapefruit and sea salt. Just this last year won best in class. And so, for us as an ingredient, it's grapefruits from Central Texas. It's 90% of the bottle is grapefruit. It's for palomas, for salty dogs, for greyhounds, for spritzes, sangria. It's just really, the hope is it's something that people can really appreciate from the standpoint of the care that we take with it and how usable it is. Across a lot of different stuff.
I mean, that's the one that stuck out in my mind. So there are 2 use cases that I kind of had that I could see in my restaurant. One, we have like 1 or 2 people that come and ask for jalapeno margaritas, but it's not often enough that it's on the menu. That's why it's like, okay, maybe the smaller bottle for that use case with the 3-week, shelf life after you open it makes sense. That's like about what it would take, and grapefruit's the other one because we're a steakhouse and we don't have anything in grapefruit on the menu. So maybe like once a week someone orders grapefruit and like the options for fresh, like squeeze it in-house. There's some decent quality, like fresh squeezed bottles, but like once you order one of those quarts, like that's going to be bad before, like the next week. And so it was the other one where I was like, I could see this working out here. It's a good sized bottle for the like 1 or 2 guests a week that ask for it. Like it makes sense for at least for our style of restaurant. I think that it's kind of cool. Other restaurants would probably have other use cases just based on their, like, they might have the prickly pear on the menu, or, you know, like there are other things they could do with them.
The thing I like about us as a base ingredient is how many things you can do, how many things you can make out of certain ingredients. So in other words, like with our stuff, if you shake it with any spirit, you can pour it up in a martini style glass. And suddenly it's kind of has that steakhouse sophistication of, oh, this is a 3 citrus and mint mojito up. This is a prickly pear and pomegranate Mexican martini. This is a lemon sour, you know, whiskey sour with our lemon sour mix, you know, these sorts of things. So we try to have the practical application of addressing uses for everyone. But to your point, there's certain things that people just aren't asking for at your specific establishment.
Yeah.
Which makes total sense.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that kind of surprised you about starting Fresh Victor? Something that you, like, I really didn't expect this to work out, or, oh God, this didn't work out the way I thought at all?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I would say that we were kind of ahead of the wave on the whole clean label, fresh, you know, hey, new experience type thing. And we had to navigate through a pandemic.
Yes, that's always fun.
Right. And especially here in Northern California, you know, we were shut down for quite a long time. And so for us, most of our business was on premise. And that shut down very quickly in March of 2020. You know, hey, if it's not on the road, don't put it on the road yet. We were really fortunate to have, you know, business already established in like Texas and Florida and places that opened up a lot sooner than the rest of the country. So we were able to pivot and continue to build on the business. I would say surprise-wise, you know, it's everybody. We've had such a positive experience with industry and consumer response, but how long it's taken to kind of carve out this new category, if you will. Where does it belong? Like if you're in a grocery store, is it in the wine and spirits department? Is it in general grocery? Is it in produce? Is it in dairy and juice? You know, where do you place something like this when there hasn't been a whole lot of it before?
Mm-hmm.
Surprise me.
Convince someone to put it in all three. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Just blanket the store.
No, that's cool. I could only imagine because, California shut down hard. I was in Oklahoma for the COVID, and I think about a third of the state didn't even notice it happens, honestly.
Yeah.
Wild. I wanted to ask you, and I have not yet, Fresh Victor. Where'd you get the name from? You know, I think
the first word that we really wanted people to telegraph to people is the word fresh.
Makes sense.
We wanted, you know, an absolute. It's funny too, Andrew, because as you develop a product like this, one thing about labeling and about, you know, messaging and brand positioning, attorneys and people in your orbit are really careful about making claims because it's so subject, you know, everybody can have their own version of what does all natural mean and what is it, you know, all these different things. And so the pride that we took in this product and wanting to, you know, let people know what we're doing and how we're doing it is enormous. And so we felt very comfortable. Hey, we are all natural. You know, we're not putting any preservatives or stabilizers or anything that would elongate shelf life or any of that stuff. So we're really excited to let people know that. And what I learned very quickly, and this might go back to your last question about surprise, was one of my friends who's one of our attorneys was saying, hey, I'm not going to let you put this on the label or this or that. And I was like, yeah, but it's all true. And he said, that's not the point. It's not about that. It's about protecting the brand positioning with the name itself as a proper noun, putting fresh as the first word. It really lets you know kind of what you're getting yourself into. Like, okay, you know, that's interesting. Here's fresh. And then it's a victory, or you're the victor for drinking fresh. We're all winning here. We're winning because you're drinking better. You're leveling up. You're kind of going back to the old school days of, hey, this will be a culinary experience with the drinks that I'm making you. And it doesn't have to be particularly difficult. Like, you know, we're trying to take that step away. We'll do the hard part. And then you take it from there. Make it as, you know, make a delicious drink as easy as you want it to be, or add a bunch of stuff and take it in your own direction. And we'd love to know about it. You know, let us know what you did. I can't wait to hear what people are doing with our stuff.
Join the bandwagon, become a victor. Yeah.
Yeah, become a victor. Yeah, exactly.
No, that makes a ton of sense. And yeah, hearing that a lawyer was involved makes a lot of sense too. It's a food product. You got to have the public. And I'm guessing if someone gets litigious, you can stand behind the fresh, It's like, of course, we're fresh.
Yeah. It's one of those things about what do you want people to understand about your product? And I think that being able to put on our label, non-GMO, preservative-free, kosher, fair trade, all the good stuff, they come to their own conclusion of, this is all natural and it is fresh and it is all the things that I was hoping to see. You can also see that on the calorie panel. We're not adding a bunch of preservatives and stuff that would jack up the calories or, I was used to in the 80s and 90s, you had that neon green stuff and it would be 400 to 600 calories per cocktail. And, a fluid ounce of our stuff is averaging about 20 calories just because we're not putting a bunch of stuff in it.
Not bad at all. No. Yeah. As someone who loves cheesecake and sweets, I'm watching my calories, and you'd be surprised how much sneaks in when you have a beverage or two.
Yeah.
It's like every time I write it down and I look it up, I'm like, seriously? Like, yeah, that beer didn't taste like that many calories, but whatever.
Yeah.
So it goes. So that is good to hear. 20 ounces or 20 calories an ounce is not bad at all. For sure.
Yeah. And everybody's a little bit different on their ratios, depending on where I am and who I'm talking to.
Sure, yeah.
People like more mixed because they want it to be mixed for the citrus taste forward. Some people like to go 50-50 and just cut it down the middle with spirit.
Yeah, that's wild to me because I guess you stay in the industry for long enough, you get used to like the more bitter, the more acid, the more intense. Like your flavor tolerance grows.
Sure.
I was going to ask you to very randomly, just because I just went to the dentist, with all these like fresh citrus, I'm sure you've tasted a lot. Have you noticed like any like bothered your teeth? Like having all that acidity, trying it all the time?
So far, so good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good, yeah.
So far, so good. Yeah. No, I mean, I think like anything, it's moderation. It's, I'm not having Fresh Victor with every meal per se. But,
sure. Yeah. Well, it popped in my head. So I've done the wine certification route, and I'm working on the advanced somm now. And I haven't been studying as hard as I should, as I say that, and like, But when I get to like the big seasons of blind tasting, where you're blind tasting a lot and tasting a lot of wines, you're not drinking them, you're spitting them. But one piece of advice I got was like, let your dentist know, because it's such a constant exposure to high acid. Like you can get what do you call it, like medically like released toothpaste. I forget what it is. Like you can find different things that actually try to help your teeth get through that environment, but it just, that constant exposure to acid does kind of accumulate. But I'm also probably blind tasting and spitting more than you. You're probably not sitting there for an hour tasting, spitting different wines with different people or different citrus back and back. Yeah.
Yeah. And, with the dilution and everything else, a lot of the times we'll, at least at home during the week, we're mixing the Fresh Victor with sparkling waters. Like we'll get sleeves of Waterloo, different flavored waters, and have a pint glass and just pour a ton of sparkling water and splash the Fresh Victor in there, and you're just ready to go.
Ready to go, yeah. Someone who's listening at home who wants to find out more about you, Fresh Victor, where should they go?
We'll have all the background on the products. You can order online, and we'll curate any box with the different size bottles, the flavors. You can, mix and match. And it'll just go to your doorstep within about 48 hours or so. Sure.
Yeah. If you're listening and you are a wholesale account too, there's a place to apply for that. So there's a little bit of everything for everyone. And if you didn't have the ability to write that down, if you're in a car or something, I'll have that in the show notes so you can just click on over. Anything we missed, Ken? Anything we'd be sad to leave without talking about?
I just can't thank you enough for the time. I mean, This was great, and it's really nice to be able to expose people to, hopefully what we're offering, and the ability to mix in a way where you can go cocktail or mocktail route and feel really good about what you're drinking. So I thank you.
I love it. Yeah. Come join the club. Come be a victor. So thanks, Ken.
There we go. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. That is today's episode. Now, if you have not taken a moment to check out our website, please do. It's servesyouRightPod.com. We have past episodes and all sorts of other things there. If you want to get in touch with me, that's the place to do it. I do appreciate that you've given me your most valuable asset, your time and attention. So thank you for listening, and stay tuned. We have some really cool guests coming up. I would hate it if you missed it. Cheers.